Hello everyone, welcome back. We're going to talk about loop in this section, but before we go to loop, quick one about something I missed in the last video about variables. So talking about variable names, there are just a couple of rules to follow when naming your variables. Your variable name can contain letters, it can contain numbers and underscore. But one point is that variable names cannot contain space. For example, you can have your variable name my number. Let me increase the size of this. You can have your variable name my number. You can have your variable name my number. You can it can contain number. You can say my number 1 or my number 2. So variable names can contain letters, it can contain number, it can contain underscore, but it cannot contain space. You cannot have a variable name my number. You cannot have a variable name my number. Another thing that cannot be in your variable name is to start with number. You cannot say to my number. This is not a valid variable name. You cannot start your variable name with number, though it can contain number, but you cannot start with numbers. Another thing you have to put in mind is that your variable name is case sensitive. You can my number is different. Let me comment this so that my number is different from my number. Like you have seen here, my number here is different from my number here. So if you name a variable my number and you are referencing this, it will tell you this variable is not defined. For example, let's try it. My number is equal to 44 or 434. Okay, let's say 44. Then I want to say print my number. Print my number. This will give an error and will say my number is not defined. My number is not defined. So if you put the right case and you print it, it will give you the value 44. That's quick one about naming your variable. It can contain letters, numbers and underscore. The names cannot contain space. The name cannot start with number, and the case is case matters. But one rule of thumb that I want to tell you is that always ensure that you save you name your variables in a way that it reflects the context of number that it's saved. For example, if you have a variable that stores the number of students in your program, you can name it as number of students. So the length of your variable name doesn't matter. Make sure that it reflects what it stores. It reflects what it stores. So let's go straight to the core topic that we want to talk about this in this section, which is a for loop. So a loop, generally a loop is a control structure that allows you to run a certain block of code to in a repeated times, as in it's a certain block of code is repeated multiple times, right? And loop is used for automating a repetitive task in your program, and it also helps to iterate over collection of data. I've shown you a data structure that's a collection of data, an example of collection of data in the last clip or a previous clip, which I call list. For example, I can say my list of names is Joseph, let's say Josephine, John, Jude, Jane. So we have this. Let's have this list of names. If you look at the type of this variable, let's inspect the type of this variable, my list of name. if we run this, it will give you this class list. So this is a list, this is a type of variable, this is a class that is given us in the Python library. So this is a collection of string values. These are string, this list names are strings, so it's a collection of strings, a list of string. Likewise, you can have a list of number. My list, it's a list of even numbers, and we have let's say if 2 is an even number, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So this is a list of even numbers. So you can have this list of number also, and if you inspect the type of this is also a list, is also a list. So I'm just a brief one to remind you, I've shown you this before. This is a collection, a variable collection of other variable types. So we can use for loop to iterate through this kind of list. In this, for example, here you can say for name in my list of names. Okay, I want to print name. If you print this, it will give us all the names in my list of name. Joseph is not correct, so if you print it again, you can see it gives us all the names in my list of name. Let's run this in debugger mode to see how it actually happens. This structure is for this name is a variable that you create yourself. This is a variable, we can call it n, and we print n. So this variable name is anything that you decide to call your variables, which will store each of the names that will pick from the list. So if we run this in debugging mode, let's run it in debugging mode and see how it works. This is the variable stack that we have. Now we have lists. You can see we have list of name is a list. This is a list also, and we have created we have another. Okay, these are the list of variables we have created before. So now we are looking at debugging this. Let's highlight this place and this. Let's see what's going on here by running it in this debugging mode, and let's look at. So we have a list of names, and we have n. This is n here, that's our n here. If I step in now, so this is our n here. The n now has Joseph. You can see that n has Joseph. Now if I step through, it prints the Joseph. You can see it prints the Joseph, and the next step, if you click here, it goes back to the for loop, and where is our n? N now has Josephine. N now, Josephine is now stored in n, and if we say next, we have Josephine printed, and if we click next, you can see that n now has John. The next one is John, and now John is now stored in n, and the next step, it prints the whatever is in n, and if you click the next step, you can see that Jude is now stored in n, and the next step gives you, it prints Jude here. And if you look at the next step now, if we click it, you look, let's check what is in n now. N is now Jane. We have Jane in n, and if we click it and print Jane, and Jane is the last one, and if we ask for the next step now, it goes out of the loop. It goes out of the loop. You can see this is not highlighted. That means that is the end of the loop, and it gets out of this loop. So let's get out of this debugging mode, and if we print it, we have the list of this. You can see how it works. It picks the item in our list one by one and store it in this n. and when it store it in the n, it prints n. It go back to the for loop to check if there is another item, it's a next item in the list, and it store it in n again, print it, goes back to the for loop, check if there is there the next item, pick the item and store it in the list, then it prints it until it gets to Jane. It picks Jane and store it in n, and it prints n. But when it gets back here, it sees that that's the end of our list, and it goes back out of the loop. If you look at this, then let's say print this is the end of the for loop. So if we run this, this will not print until all the list in my list of names has been printed. If you look at this, so everything prints, then it gets out of the for loop and it prints. So this is an example. We can look at, instead of printing list of names, we can say for any number in list of number, let's change this one to number and this one also to number. So and we ask it to print every number, each number in the list of number, and you can see it prints 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Those are the numbers that we have in that list. So that's a quick one about how you can iterate through a list with for loop. But there is another function that we often use with for loop, which is a range of number. Assuming we want to print numbers between 0 to 5, you can say for numbers in range 5. Let's start with this. Range 5 is actually from 0. It prints 5 number from 0 to it's print number from 0 to 5, excluding 5. So this will print numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's look at this. Can you see? It prints number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it prints number from 0 to 5. If you want to start from 1, you can say print number from 1 to 5, and still it does not include the 5. If you print this one, it will print 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you want to print numbers from 1 to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you need to put it at range 1 to 6. Range 1 to 6. Can you see now? Range 1 to 6 will print number 1, 2, 5. So the last number is not included, but the first number is included in the range. So this is another way you want to use for loop. Assuming we want to print all the even numbers from 1 to let's say 100, all the even numbers from 1 to 100. This is something we have not done. I will let's say we want to print numbers from 1 to 100. I don't want to get you run into even numbers yet. We'll get to that later. So you can see from 1 to 100. Assuming you want to start the printing from 50, you can just say print from 50, and you should know that this will not print to 100. It will get to just 99. You can see. So if you want to make it to 100, you make it to 101. So this prints numbers from 50 to 100. You can see start from 50 and it gets to 100 because we have added 101. So range is a function that prints numbers from the range that if you just click range 100, it will print number from 0 to the range that you assign. But so if you have the starting point and the ending point, it will print number from the starting point up to the ending point minus 1. So this is an example of ways you can use loop, and you can say, okay, multiply all numbers from 50 to 100 by 2. So if you look at this, 50 becomes 100, 51, 102. So it gives you multiple all numbers from 1 to 100 multiplied by 2. So that is a quick one about for loop. Another thing I want to show you is that you can just ask for user input. Let's say number range is equal to we want an integer. We want to make sure that the user input is an integer. Then you take input and prompt the user enter an integer. So this asks the input for an integer. Then this will be our range, and we want to print from this range 1 to the range plus 1. So we want to include the range. So and we want to print our number. If you run this now, it will ask you to enter an integer. If you enter 10, and you know that it will print from 1 to 10 plus 1. That means 1 to 11. So it will include 10. That will be 1 to 10. That's what the output will be. Enter. So you have the output 1 to 10. So depending on what the user enters, assuming the user enter 5, the output will be 1 to 4. So 1 to 5, sorry, we have added plus 1. So if the user enter 20, the output will be, sorry, press enter, the output will be 1 to 20. So this is a way you can do this. And for example, there are a lot of other manipulation that you can do with for loop. Let's look at this. What would this print for us? For numbers in range 1 to, let's say, 5, print this hash multiply by number. Let's see what gives us. See what it gives us. So what happens here is that the first number is 1. It prints hash multiplied by 1. You can see that hash is a string, so it multiplies it by 1. So, and the second number is 2. It prints hash multiplied by 2. Second number is 3, print hash multiplied by 3. Second number is 4, print hash multiplied by 4. You can see it prints a right angle triangle for us. What happens here is this. So for example, if you have let's say print hash, hash is a string, sorry, it will print this single hash, and you can print hash plus hash, asterisk. What do you call it? Asterisk. So hash plus asterisk will print 2 for us, 2 of this for us. And like I said, this operator is working as a concatenator with string. That means it concatenates the string. If we use number, that's when it adds it together. So you can say this hash plus another hash, sorry, another asterisk, gives you 3. So you can, instead of saying this, you can just say multiply by 3, gives you the same thing as asterisk plus asterisk plus asterisk. So that's what happens here. When it is 1, when number is 1, it's multiplied by 1. When number is 2, multiply it by 2. When number is 3, multiply it by 3, and it gives you this value. So we can do a lot of things with this for loop and the range function. Let's assume we have this and we want to print the number of hellos. The number of hellos here, let's say we have num plus 1, and we have this hello. So this will print hello in the range that we have here. You know, the first one will be 0, we add it to plus 1, so it starts from 1, and the last one will be 2, we add 1 to it, it gets to 3. It's the same thing as saying If we run this now, it will give you 1 hello, 2 hello, 3 hello. This is the same thing as writing num 1 2 4. This will give us the same thing: hello, 1 hello, 2 hello, 3 hello. So you've seen how the range function works. So the range is a function given to us by Python library. So if you have range 10, you see that it prints from it has from 0, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. So but if you have from range 1 to 10, the difference is that it removes the 0, it starts from 1 and it gets to 9. But if you want to include 10, you can add this 11. You can make it 11, then it gets to 11, and you can use for loop to iterate through this range of numbers. In your programs, you will need to have this trick done: iterate through numbers, through sets of range of numbers, and you will need also to iterate through collection of values. Like I've shown you with list, you can iterate through collection of values, and through with for loop. There is another kind of loop which is while loop, and which I'll be showing you later in this lecture series. For now, you've known about for loop. You know how you can use for loop to iterate through list of numbers, any collection of values or data structure. And you know the function of range function. There's a Python library function that gives us opportunity to get a range of values between two numbers. You can just say range 4, which is 0 to 3, 0 to 4 minus 1. You can say range 1 to 4. You can say range 1 to 4 plus 1. Depending on what you want, you can see how I use range to manipulate the values that it gives us. So for now, you've known about for loop. You can use for loop to iterate through range of numbers. You can use for loop to iterate through range lists of values. So in the next, we'll talk briefly more about numbers. We'll expand our ideas of numbers. We'll talk about integer and decimal numbers, which you have seen, integers and floats. We'll talk about math operators and other operations which we have such in normal arithmetic. We'll talk about random numbers. We'll talk about math functions and other help that you can get in Python to run your mathematical operation within your program. But for now, we've done about for loop. You have an idea about it. We'll still use it more in our programs, and before then, let's move on to numbers.